Why did you decide to call the book An Impossible Life? Why did you feel that's the type of life you were living?
Well, I felt that mental illness took my father's life, made it so I was unable to finish raising my 16-year-old son, almost ended my marriage, almost took my life, and I felt like I was living an impossible life that I just couldn't breathe. And I feel like for those people out there who are facing the darkest of days, I wanted them to know you are not alone. I have been you, and I have dug myself out, and there is hope.
We wanted the cover to reflect what the story was. We had a lot of people suggest, like, we'll get your photo professionally taken, have it be like this awesome like cover photo where you look so pretty and all this. And we flirted with the idea, it's tempting. And then we stumbled upon that photo. We just knew, we were like, this is the cover. Because this is the story, it's just honest, it's unedited.
Yeah, our story, we told it honestly, unedited, unvarnished, and that photo is an actual photo of me in a depressive state.
Are you living a possible life now?
I am living a beautiful life now.
Why are we at this library in New York?
Because libraries are the heart of the community, and we wanted to travel to all 50 states and donate my life story in hopes to help people and that they can get the copy for free and check it out.
And you're traveling to all 50 states.
Yes.
Whose idea was it to write the book?
I would say it was my mom's idea to write a book, but she had been sitting on that idea for 10 years. And then she came to me and was like, well, what if you wrote it and interviewed me? And I was like, I would be willing to do that. There were a lot of things I feel like it's just natural that you want to hide in your life. So when we sat down to write it, I was like, hey, if I write this book though, I can call your BS because I'm your daughter. So if you're like, that's not how it happened, I can be like, yeah, it is. And that's how we're going to tell it. So I think we were a good dynamic duo.
And how did writing the book change the nature of your relationship?
Oh, it was so healing. When I was 16, I found my mom's suicide note, and I was really angry. I thought it was selfish that she'd want to leave me and my entire family just like that. And after writing this book with her, I have a better understanding of the pain she went through. So I feel like she didn't want to leave me or my family. She just wanted to leave pain. It's an illness that makes you feel like you have no other out, and it tries to take your life from you. And it's a sickness.
What message would you want other loved ones or family members of someone who may have either attempted suicide or have died by suicide to know?
I would want them to know that there are people out there who understand them. They don't need to go through it alone. Because my grandpa died from suicide, my mom's attempted, my brother has suicidal urges, and so as long as suicide kills conversation, it's going to keep killing people.
I can attest to you, to anyone who's lost a family member to suicide, they did not want to leave you. They did not want to leave their friends. That they were in so much pain and sick. I mean, I swallowed over 200 pills and almost died. And yes, I deeply love my children and my husband and would never want to leave them. I know those people who died from suicide died from an illness. They did not want to leave their loved ones.
You wrote that you felt like many times you were sitting in the passenger seat and your illness was driving the car.
Yes. When you have a lifelong illness, mental illness, it can be relentless. It wakes up with you in the morning, it's with you all day, it wakes you up in the middle of the night, it's with you 7 days a week. And year after year, there is no clock where I can check in and out of my illness. There's no vacation.
Take us a little bit through the day when you were first admitted to the psych hospital by your husband and your father.
My parents had flown in, and I thought they were there to visit me. And my dad let me know that my husband had called them, and my husband had hit rock bottom and said, this is it. We've got to get her in the hospital. And I refused to go. And my dad said, just go to the emergency room. If the doctors say you're okay, then we're all okay and you can come home. And I thought, I'll go to the emergency room and it will be fine. They'll see that I'm just stressed, because that's what I kept making myself believe. I was just stressed. And when I got there and the doctors asked me, do you have thoughts of suicide? And I really believed that everyone did. I just thought everyone has thoughts of suicide. That's normal, because that's what had been happening to me. And I said, well, of course, just like you do. And when he said, well, how many times do you think of suicide a day? And I thought, well, just the average amount, just as often as you do. And then the doctor excused himself, and I thought they were going to let me go home. I was delusional at that point. I didn't really realize how serious it was, my suicidal thoughts and feelings. And then a crisis worker came in with 2 security guards, and the doctor had PEC'd me, and that means under a physician's order, I was going to the psych ward. And so I was admitted against my will.
Was that the turning point for you in terms of starting to get on a road towards treatment?
Yes. They started giving me medicine and gave me my diagnosis, and they made me face my diagnosis that I was bipolar. And I did.
Can you tell us, what does that pain and suffering feel like?
It's almost like you have too tight of clothes on and they're just suffocating you, and you can't take off these too tight clothes. It's so uncomfortable and restricting, and you just feel like you can't breathe, that I can't handle this pain anymore, and it's all encompassing. It becomes so painful that you no longer see your children, your husband. It just takes everything out of your peripheral vision, and all it is left is this pain. It silences all the love, all the hope, all the friends, all your children, all your loved ones. The pain silences it all and takes over.
You said that you stopped looking at death with sympathy and started looking at death with envy.
Yeah, I wanted to die. And I didn't want to take my life. I didn't want to cause that damage to my children or my husband. And I thought, if I died a natural death, then they would all be okay and they could move on. I would see people dying around me, and I almost felt like I was in God's classroom, raising my hand to the back, going, pick me, take me, because that's how much pain I was in. I was desperate to get relief of the pain, and that's the only way I saw out.
Did you know that your mother was sick?
I don't think any kid really knows if their situation is normal or not until they're older, because that's all you know. So growing up, all I knew was my mom was really fun, and then she'd get really sad. Because she had established love first, all I knew is that my mom loved me and that we were best friends. And I think that carried me and my brothers, because a lot of sad things happened. We saw her cut herself. We were all aware she tried to take her own life. And those can be scarring, but because we knew ultimately she loved us and we were best friends, I could see her as a person going through something hard and almost feel more, compassion for her as my best friend, as my mother I loved, instead of letting it be traumatizing.
And how do you think it affected your siblings?
It affected all of us very differently. My brothers, they internalized a lot more, but the underlining thing we all have is that we all feel like we're our parents' best friends. We all feel like we're this tight little army group, that we're in a foxhole together, and we came out stronger for it, and we feel really lucky to have each other.
I was always so worried that I wasn't a good enough mother, that I wasn't helping my children, that I was harming them. And I realized they had a sick mother, and they learned how to be compassionate and to stick up for people who were going through something.
And at one point, you read the essays that your children had written to get into college, asking what their biggest trial in life was. And what did they say?
Their mother. Yeah. They knew that if our family could get through these difficult times, that they could get through anything in life. So even though I was their most difficult trial, it gave them confidence and courage to face whatever trials that came in their life. They knew they would be okay.
So you gave them confidence and resilience and compassion.
Yes.
All really important gifts to give your children.
Yes.
How did that change the way you felt about yourself as a mother?
It made me feel relief. It made me feel like my illness isn't taking everything from our family and isn't all dark, that there is some good that can come from my mental illness, that there is some lessons to be learned, that there is growing to be done, that there is some beauty in suffering and sacrificing, that there is some beauty there.
At what point, Sonja, did you finally decide it was time to reveal your illness and share it with others?
After my attempted suicide, I was taken to the hospital where my husband was CEO, and a leading psychiatrist there told him, never bring her back to this hospital again. Take her where no one knows you guys. And I felt shame and embarrassed. And there was like almost a fire that got lit in me of, I am not gonna hide anymore. The truth needs to be told. And there's so many of us in pain that are suffering that we need to come out and speak and be heard.
I think too, though, I think after your dad died, I remember a conversation we had where we're like, this illness has had so much ugly brought into the world, and we decided, why not use this illness to make something beautiful, like healing and help, instead of just something that's painful and hard. There can be opposite action that we could do.
Why do you think that you hid your illness for as long as you did?
No one wants to belong to a group that's labeled crazy. I mean, the stigma's out there. When there's a gun shooting, it's they're mentally ill. I don't want to be associated with an illness that's labeled crazy, violent, even sometimes evil. And a lot of times they also feel like it's something wrong with them personally instead of it's an illness.
Do you think you had an idea that you might have bipolar, or were you unaware?
I think that my dad being bipolar, and he had attempted suicide once before I was hospitalized, I didn't want to be bipolar. I didn't want to have a mental illness so bad that I fought it, that I just, in my very soul, I just did not want to have that illness.
What did it feel like when you finally said those words, I am bipolar?
It was facing my greatest fear. I am bipolar. I have a mental illness. This is a lifelong illness that I'm going to have to manage. I feel like there's so many of us out there that I'm not rich and famous, and I'm not homeless. I'm somewhere in between. So where's that? I was an ordinary mother, just trying to plan birthday parties without pain, wanting to go on a family walk, wanting to get out of bed and take a shower. Where were those people that had mental illness? Where was the everyday person who has a job or a family? Where are friends? Where were they? I wanted to hear from them.
And that was part of what drove you to write the book.
Yes, yes. I am an ordinary mother, woman, friend, sister, daughter. And I just wanted to let people know that I have dug my way out. I have found through medication and dialectical behavior therapy and mindfulness and meditation, I have found a way to manage this illness and have a beautiful life, that there's hope.
Why do you think it's so important for you to share your story?
Because I feel like there is still a lot of stigma and judgment and shame around mental illness. But I feel like it's so important that people are able to talk about their mental health just as like their physical health. That people need to know that seek professional care, that you don't need to do this alone, that there is medication, there is therapy, that we need to have conversations around it and talk about it where it becomes everyday and common and comfortable. You know, after my attempted suicide, my neighbors were all in the cul-de-sac and talking, and I went out to go approach them, and instant dead silence, because I had just gotten out of the hospital, but they didn't know what to say to me. And I feel like if we have more of these conversations, people can get more comfortable talking about them.
Because even Dad at work, after you attempted suicide, no one really approaches him and goes, how is your wife doing? How are you doing? It's more just like, well, now we're going to kind of avoid you because this is uncomfortable, as opposed to like, my aunt has cancer, and they'll have more like, here are flowers, here are, you know, our condolences.
Yeah,
so you feel more support.
Oh, my sister who had cancer, her husband at work would, tons of people, how's she doing? How's she doing with her cancer? People are mowing her lawn, people are bringing, you know, dinners. I had attempted suicide and came out of the hospital. It's just dead silent. You know, there was only one person at my husband's hospital that asked him, are you okay?
So you kind of have to go through it alone as a family, it feels like sometimes.
Do you think that if there had been more of an open conversation in your home with your father about his diagnosis, that it might have changed how you had handled your diagnosis?
Absolutely, 100%. I feel like my son has been diagnosed as bipolar. He has the best medicine. He's in dialectical behavior therapy. We're talked about skills, what to do. So if you have mental health struggles, you need to educate yourself on them in your family and talk about it.
Now, your father, the first time he was diagnosed was in his 60s when he attempted suicide. Why do you think the diagnosis was so delayed for him?
Well, I feel like just now people are talking about mental health. I think it was just taboo. You don't talk about it. And I grew up only knowing my dad and just thought, oh, he's eccentric. My grandpa, he's eccentric. You know, they're unique. When really there was a deeper thing going on. I wasn't able to go to my dad's grave until 6 years after he had died. And I was ready to go and let him know that I forgave him for leaving me. I felt like he was the strongest person I knew. And after he took his life and died, I felt if he can't do this illness, then I definitely can't either. And I just felt so discouraged and fearful and sad, and I needed him, and he left me. But I was able to go to his grave, and I asked him to forgive me if I hadn't helped him enough, and I told him I forgave him for leaving me, and I told him, and I made a promise to him, that I would do something good with this, with our illness, with this pain. And that is why I opened my life up, and we wrote the book, is that I want to do some good with this pain, this illness that has caused our family difficulty.
How are you feeling now?
Good. I have a beautiful life now. My marriage of 27 years is going strong. I have good relationships with all my children. I don't stay in bed all day anymore. Yes, I have a mental illness, and yes, I have moments of pain and anxiety and difficulty. It's a lifelong illness that I have to manage, but I can have a life worth living too. I still have moments of great pain, but I would say it's not all-encompassing anymore, that I've been able to step outside my pain and see the joy and the beauty in life and have beautiful moments. And so there's something a therapist told me, that two truths can be true at the same time. I can be in pain and I can still be having a good time. And so I have experienced that. There's some times that I might have a little bit of pain going on inside me, but I'm still at the party talking to my friend, enjoying myself.
What do you think is the most important message in the book?
There is hope. Mental illness is not a death sentence. It doesn't mean your life is over, and it's not a prison. There is professional care, there is therapy, there is medicine, that you can get through it and have a life worth living.
I almost feel like we have this roadmap that we were looking for so many years. We're like, this is so hard, there has to be something better. And we found this roadmap that takes you somewhere better and teaches you how to live with an illness. And now we're just like, everyone have it, free copy. Like seriously, like get a hold of this map, because everyone should know this isn't the end. You can live a great life with an illness, yeah.
Why do you think so many people relate to the book?
Because my mom's trials are really relatable. Just like overeating or overspending, all these things that people struggle with as well. She just did them in a more extreme way. So she gained like over 100 pounds, or she spent $150,000 on credit cards in 3 months. But when you hear that she's overcome those trials, you're like, wow, if Sonja can handle, her life, I can for sure handle mine. So I feel like she's a very relatable person, even though she's gone through really big things.
It's raw, it's unedited, we tell the truth. We don't try to pretend. We give you the honest, unedited version of what it looks like to have a mental illness as a mother, as a wife, and as a daughter and a friend.
What can we do, we as a community, to help people get out of that pain so that they don't take their life?
I feel like you need to make people feel safe enough to share their thoughts and feelings about suicide, and that they're having thoughts and feelings about it. And then you need to look back at that person and say, this is not you, this is an illness. Help them get the help that they need, and let them know you are sick and you can get well, that we can get through this, because they do need that hope to get to the other side, to stay alive. I am a suicide survivor. It's not just, oh, she attempted suicide. It's, I'm a suicide survivor. And I think it takes bravery and courage to face a mental illness or a mental health disorder, whatever that is, that you have to face and treat and get well. That is bravery. And we need to let them know you are brave and you are courageous and that you can do it.
What do you say about your mom's bravery?
Oh, I tell her all the time. I'm sure she'd love to hear it a lot more though. I tell her that she is so brave, and I'm like, everyone's mom should be their role model, but I look at her in a way that's like, even if you weren't my mom, you'd be my role model, just because she puts her family first and she is brave. She works really, really hard. And I often have thought, if I had what she has, could I have handled it as gracefully? And I don't know, but I think she's amazing for doing it.
You call your family a tribe. I love that word. You've been through so much together, good, bad, difficult, challenging. What is it that kept your tribe together?
Love.
And I would say honesty. I would say almost every piece of your illness, your life, your hopes, your dreams, we knew it all. She was a very open mom, and I don't think you have to be that open to create a strong family or a strong tribe. But I do think that's what helped ours, is her openness.
What has been the reception that you've received from people who have learned about your struggle with mental illness?
It has been incredible. I had a psychiatric nurse tell me she will never look at her patients the same way after reading my book. I had a woman tell me that she now understands her bipolar sister better than she ever has. I've had people say, I don't understand mental illness at all until I read your book. Now I understand, my eyes are open. I will never be the same, I am changed. And I think that is what I want to do. I want people to better understand people who are mentally ill and understand and have compassion. I want the people who have mental illness to know there's hope, that they are not alone. So the reception has been incredible.
And what do you think, Rachel?
It's been really rewarding because I like seeing the way it's helped all different types of people like me and people like my mom. I've had friends say, you know, I have a dad who's bipolar or a brother, and I thought I couldn't share it with my friends because I'd be judged. And I'm like, no, there's a lot of people out there that have family or close friends with this illness that would love to bond over it, you know?
What is the most beautiful thing to you about Rachel? And Rachel, what is the most beautiful thing to you about your mom?
I would say that she has loved me through my illness, through being an imperfect mother, an imperfect person, and she has turned out beautifully despite the things that our family has faced. The thing I love about her most is her compassion, and that she has been my best friend and has been accepting of me no matter what.
I think the most beautiful thing about my mom is definitely how selfless she is. She will give and give and give to the people she cares about, even if it destroys her, because she loves and she loves hard. And I really do think that you are one of the bravest people. And I think you've done a lot of good with a lot of hard things that you've had. And I'm always here to support you for it.